Okay, so I wanted to give two examples of layering detail, layering complexity. So the question is, how do you generate something like this? So this is a goblin of mine that I did a while back. How do you generate something like this from layers atop layers atop layers? So I want to demonstrate for you the strategy that you should use as you're layering complexity as you are beginning to work on your projects. So let me just first shut all the layers off. And let's start with the background white page. So the first thing I did is I wanted like the background colors of the sky. So I did a blend for some of these background colors for the sky. Okay, then on top of that, then I did a rough sketch of like the land outlay. Okay, what was going to be the foreground, what was going to be the background, keeping the entire composition in mind. Then I added the goblin, censored here. So then I added the goblin, okay, and I drew the musculature of the creature. And then I added some shading. So look what's adding here. I've already got some blends, some lights and some darks. But then here I add a layer on top, really adding some dark blacks, really shading some of these regions of this goblin. And that is a mistake that a lot of newbies make, is they're afraid of really, really, really dark blacks. People are afraid of using pure black. And the more comfortable you get with using pure whites and pure blacks, the better the contrast in your images, and the more things are going to pop and the more things are going to look good. So you need to get comfortable really doing darkness and lights. Okay, so then I drew some clothes. Good thing, atop the goblin. In the next layer, I add the knives, and these are all just sketched. Look at how sketchy this is. But you'll see how it looks so bad right now. But you'll see how as I just continue to layer complexity over top complexity over top complexity, the image starts to get to look a little bit better and better and better with each layer. So you're going to find that you're going to be real disappointed with some of your initial layers, and you're going to think, well, I can't possibly do anything that looks real good because look at how terrible this looks. And you could even say this with these goblins' clothes. Like, look at how terrible these goblins' clothes look. But as you continue to layer and fix problems layer by layer by layer, your image will progressively get better. Okay, so I wanted some scratchy details. Okay, so I drew in some scratchy details. Maybe this would be just to sort of emphasize like maybe like the movement of this goblin. Then I added some tattoos. Okay, so this is kind of funny. There's a tattoo over here, and there's a tattoo that says pain. The raging goblin. Okay, and then I added a layer of like what I thought was like dirt. Like if this thing was like moving around, I added a layer of dirt, splotches, things like that. I put some details, some flags in the background, some marks, some lines. This is what you would call, when we get into the black and white drawing, this is what you would call like cross hatching. I started to add some real cross hatching to add some detail. And you can see now that the picture is actually already starting with this layer to look a lot better. So if you go from here, where it looks horrible, to adding more detail, adding more detail, adding more detail, it starts to really now become complete, okay? And now, again, what I wanted to emphasize is I'm really separating the background from the foreground with real dark darks, pure blacks in the front, and real lights, the lightest tones in the background. So I'm really sort of stretching, using color theory, using shading to emphasize contrast. Okay, and then I add some details. So if you look, so let's pop these details on. I add the eyeballs, and you can zoom in here and look, because I probably would have drawn this at this level, 150%. Like, look at these eyeballs. Let's go to 300%. I was probably doing these eyeballs at 600%. So what you'll find is that zooming in and out is a real great way to do the details. Okay, so let's zoom back out. So you can see from this layer now, I've added real whites. This was a layer for the highlights, the eyes, in the face, in the teeth, in the arms, in the thigh, where I really wanted to emphasize the brightness. And then let's see the final layer. Final layer was just more detail. I detailed some of the shading on the shirt, added more cross-hatching in the back, made the fortress in the back look a little bit better. So you can see how you go from nothing to something like this by layering complexity. Layering complexity. Let me show you another example. So let's take a look at this Zombielzebub. This was an image that I did a long while back when I took scientific illustration at the University of Minnesota. So this is a pretty detailed image. And let's just look through the layers and we can try to dissect how I approach doing this Zombielzebub. And the other thing I would say is some of my layers I know for a fact I fused, so you're not seeing all the complexity, all the detail that I layered, because I fuse a lot of it with that merge layer function. But let's shut off all the layers and let's see what it looks like one by one. Okay, so I started with the white page. The second thing I did on the second layer is I immediately did a sketch to get the proportions correct, okay? And this is another newbie mistake that lots of people make, is they don't start with an entire sketch, okay? If you want to get proportions accurate, the sketch is the time to perfect the proportions, and then you layer the detail on the perfect proportions, okay? So I started with the sketch. And then insects are great because they're segmented. They're segmented organisms. Now, you guys don't have to do insects. You can do whatever you want. You could do machines. You could do, well, as long as they're real machines. You could do flowers. You could do plants. As long as it's sort of scientific illustration related, you can do whatever you want. But insects are good because the approach to them is sort of inherently a segmented approach. So you can attack each segment with a different layer. So I did the thorax, okay? And let's zoom in here and let's just look at the painting that I did here. Let's go to 600%. So you can see the pixels now at 600%. So I'm individually painting each of these pixels, this color. And you'll find if you want to create real lifelike images, what you need to do is you need to zoom in and take the effort to paint the individual pixels. And then when you zoom out, so get in the habit of zooming in and zooming out. When you zoom out, your eye then can no longer see or distinguish between those pixels. And it looks real. This is literally like a photograph, okay? Then I approach the head, okay? Then I approach the mouth parts. Now it's starting to come together. Abdomen segment, abdomen segment, abdomen segment 5, 4, you get the point. Boom, 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 boom. Now I'm doing the legs, each leg just one at a time. And let's look at this. It kind of looks furry. Let's look at how I did this. Zoom in 600%. Yep, see, I'm actually drawing like furry hairs. I'm actually like painting furry hairs of many different colors. And look what I'm doing down here. I'm painting the individual hairs. And look at how horrible it looks zoomed up. It looks so ugly zoomed up. Like you would never see this and think that this looked good. But then when you zoom out, it looks almost lifelike, okay? So this is what I'm talking about. Draw big, draw way bigger than you think, and then you can zoom out and shrink your piece. Oh, so at the end here, I put some highlights. I made everything on the top lighter, like as if the sun was shining on top. Okay, so don't be intimidated by things like this. What you need to do is just start with a sketch, okay? Start with layering detail, and detail after detail after detail, layer after layer after layer, and eventually you will generate things that look like this. And I'll show you.